Welcome back to Gridiron Gang. Right now, we have Denver on the road at Buffalo. After that, Week 10 will be concluded. Let's get into our Week 10 recap, though, starting with the New Orleans Saints on the road at the Minnesota Vikings. One of a few games we'll talk about here where teams had big leads. Some games ended up in different results than the others, but let's talk about how your team fared before we get to these other games.
Look, honestly, what Dobbs has been able to come in, let's just talk about Dobbs first, because what he's been able to do coming in only 12 days being here, win 2 games in a row, it's nothing short of like amazing. The dude is, he's balling out right now. And I think it's one of those things where this dude has bounced around the league more than anyone in such a short time. And, he's finally around some pieces that can allow him to flourish a little bit. And I'm not saying he's elite or going to be the next great thing in the NFL, but it's a feel good story where he's finally able he's auditioning now for sure and in a solid role where he can prove like he's at least probably the top backup in the league at bare minimum. So, he's head and shoulders above a bunch of these quarterbacks in the league already. And he's showing it, especially with just how mobile he is, how he maneuvers the pocket. There's a 5 to 10 plays in that game yesterday where Kirk is a deer in the headlights in those situations, whereas Dobbs he gets out of those situations with his legs, gets first downs. That 7-yard touchdown that seemed like more like a 20-yard rush to the left pylon. That was a crazy play in itself, but my biggest issue with this game, though, is to go up 24-3 at halftime. Kevin O'Connell, this is where he's got to become a better head coach, is keeping his foot on the opponent's neck in these type of games, because there's no lead that's safe in the NFL, and we know this. So
Tell me about it.
to get complacent and super conservative in the second half to play not to lose, that's completely unacceptable. And when you are going to be, you can't expect to be taken serious when teams know that they can catch you at a certain point, knowing that you're going to run conservative plays. And golly, bro, I am so fucking sick and tired of watching Alexander Mattison. He's probably the worst running back in the NFL. I have never seen a NFL running back who is employed by a team and the way he can't even hit a hole properly, bro. His vision is just not there. It's just not there. He can't read the lineman in front of him. He's too slow to make a cut. It's just, every play it's running into the back of linemen and then he's losing, majority of the time he's losing 2 to 3 yards. I've never in my life witnessed this. And I'm not saying, and that's, I'm not saying Tyler Chandler's any, thing special, but he's definitely our best back. Anyone on the roster is better than Madison at running back. You got to roll with that. And that's my other problem with KOC is like, I think he's a great coach. I do. And I think he's proving to be a great head coach the way he gets his team to respond and play through adverse situations and continue to fight throughout the season. It's clear as day. Now 2 seasons in a row, what he's getting out of his players. But the fact that you keep rolling out the same shit that clearly doesn't work, or the same play calls that just go nowhere, like in the second half yesterday, you got to start to dial it back and look in the mirror and start to think like, all right, I got to start to switch some things up. We got to start to, look, Ty Chandler had I think it was a 29 yard touchdown run called back because Brian O'Neill, held on the play. But in that situation, that was a great play call. But I just think you look at the game measure, Ty Chandler was way more explosive than Alexander Mattison. I don't know. It's like Madison's got sand in his cleats the way he runs. It's just, there's nothing there. He's so easy to, if I'm a defender, I'm licking my chops knowing he's back there, honestly. So, and that's why also having a guy like Dobbs now, because, our running game has been pretty bad all year. So to have him as, the guy who can lead the way in rushing as well, that boosts this offense even more. And once JJ's healthy, like I said, Dobbs hasn't had this type of offense with these many weapons around him that he can trust and rely on, and go out there and show his talent week to week. He's kind of been, Dobbs has been one of those guys where when he's thrown to the Wolves, and he's either on a bad team that's, without their top quarterback. But I mean, look, what he did with Arizona this year was pretty impressive. I mean, he kept them in damn near every game. He beat Dallas. And he's doing it in Arizona without, the stats aren't that great there, but he's got one of the worst old lines in front of him in Arizona. He's got no weapons around him. It's, like I said, what he's doing here in 2 short weeks is nothing short of amazing, because it just proves like he's probably one of the smartest quarterbacks even amongst all the starters in the league. Honestly, I mean, being a rocket scientist, for crying out loud, it's like you don't get any smarter than that, truthfully. So, but like I said, the biggest takeaway for me in this one is just it's a disappointing thing when you go up 24-3 and it ends up being a 1-possession game at the end of the game. Because this was a game that we were totally dominating the Saints, and it should have never been this close. But we came out of it with a win, which is all that matters. 5 in a row. Starting to nip at Detroit's heels a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough in the end. And in the end, I still think Detroit's obviously a much better team this season than we are. They're more complete for sure, but I don't know, man. Those 2 out of the last 3 weeks, those games with them, they're going to be pivotal, because I think we can surprise them a little bit, especially the way B-Flow has this defense operating. That's the most impressive thing about this team right now, is that what that defense is doing.
Yeah, you should be in the playoffs, and depending on how you do, 16, 17, 18, if you control your own destiny, you could end up winning this division. I don't expect Detroit to go, what is it going to be, 15-2 now? 14-3 is kind of even a far stretch. 13-4, that's even asking for a lot. So I think you guys have a real chance of winning this division if you guys can keep it close with your schedule. I really think you can keep it close. So something I'll be keeping my eyes on for sure. No doubt about it. B-Flow was for sure the difference maker, I think. The offense was great last year. The turnovers, I mean, that's why you lost those games early on in the season, and you saw signs of the defense improving, which compared to last year, you couldn't really get much worse. But B-Flow is really the difference maker. He's the MVP of this team right now, if it's not going to be Dobbs.
For sure. No, and yeah, I don't think Dobbs, what he's done has been awesome, terrific, but he hasn't been here a full season. I think week to week, since week 1, this defense has continuously gotten better. They haven't gotten worse by any means. They've just continuously gotten better. I think it's taken a while for them to gel in this new system, especially this new aggressive system that B-Flow implements. And people are starting to finally, play their position the right way, be in the correct spots at the right times. And yeah, like, I mean, you take away all those, turnovers we had in the first 3 games, you're looking at a much different record. And you can't, like you said a couple weeks ago, you can't do that to yourself as a fan with the what ifs. But the Viking team should be, the same record as the Lions if you look at it at the bare minimum. But we're 6-4. It is what it is. We're battling, we're fighting and clawing. So, like I said, it's easier to have fun with this season now because of, the unfortunate injury to Kirk. Not expecting much out of the quarterback play going forward, but we're, it's kind of surprising. Like you look back at 2017 when Case Keenum came in after that first game for the rest of the way. It's much easier to have fun with these type of seasons when you don't have those expectations or those high hopes attached to it, because it lets you kind of sit back and you're taken by surprise a little bit, because I just don't know. The high hopes usually come with just a lot of anger, high blood pressure, and heartbreak. This season, however it turns out from now on, like I can accept.
That's fair. I agree. The expectations, they come with a lot of heartbreak, a lot of high blood pressure, a lot of anxiety, a lot of anger. So, how you were feeling early in the season? I told you I kind of envy that. Baltimore looking the way we looked, the way we still do look. It's going to be a long ride. We're going to be in it 17, 18, 19 weeks, whereas you thought Vikings were done after 5. You were like, okay, I accept this, but now things are changing a little bit. You're the hottest team in the league. And if you didn't start the team or didn't start the season the way you did, I know we're not doing what ifs, but that conversation could change from hottest team in the league to best team in the NFC to potentially best team in the league. So obviously that's probably not going to be the conversation with Kirk going down. I don't think anybody's going to have that much faith in Dobbs, but hottest team in the league, man. I don't think anybody feels better about the situation than you do right now.
Well, and it's like you look back to last season, and it was the defense was just atrocious and the biggest disappointment of it all because our offense was keeping us in these games and allowing us to win these games, but it was the defense that was a continuous letdown. There was no blitzing, there was no aggressiveness to it. It was just sitting back and letting people dink and dunk us all game long and get short yardage and drive the field. So it's a complete 180 this year, where it's very complimentary football in all three phases. So, and that's what you want and hope for with your team. And and also we haven't had a game this year where we had one like Eagles week 2 last year where we got shit stomped, or then you come back home a few weeks later and you absolutely obliterated by Dallas at home and embarrassed at home. We haven't had those games. We've still had one score close games this year, but they've been more convincing than they have last year. I will say that.
I agree. My only concern with this game was, like you said, you got up, what was it, 24-3, and allowed the Saints to come back into this game. It's kind of the theme with these big games, or these first couple games here. A lot of teams got up big. You were one of the teams that were fortunate enough to close out that big lead. Baltimore, unfortunately, was on the other end of that. It started off great. Cleveland's first pass resulted in a pick six by Kyle Hamilton. By 10 minutes left in the first quarter, Baltimore found themselves up 14-0 after a big touchdown run by Keaton Mitchell, 17-9 at the half. A slant that OBJ took to the house had us up 24-9 early in the third, and it was looking pretty good from here. You kind of thought the Ravens would and could close out the Browns, close out a team in general once and for all. But, we ran into some of those same issues. Coming in, we were ranked top 5 in quite a few categories on both sides of the ball. Number 1, in a few categories as well. One of those categories being first half point differential. So we were right on track there. We're probably towards the back of the league, if not at the end of the league in second half point differential. Moments, always comes down to big moments in this game. Credit to the Browns, man. They were down 2 scores early, down 2 scores late. Midway through the fourth, after a touchdown and a 2-point conversion off a blitz, they bat a pass in the air, pick it off, get their own pick six, miss the extra point, but now they're within 1 point. And this is where I run into a lot of confusion right here. Baltimore's end of the game offense. We have the best rushing offense in the league. We have the best rushing quarterback in the league. Outside of Travis Kelce, we have the best tight end in the league, in my opinion. The ball always seems to find Rashad Bateman at the end of the game, which means it's finding the turf. Another big drop by Bateman in this game. Cleveland goes down. They run the clock after we were unable to run the clock or put any points on the board. One of 5 games this week that ended on a game-winning play. They get the field goal. In Baltimore, very disappointing loss, 33-31. I know you're watching the Vikings game, but kind of like me, I figured you checked out of this one once you saw we were up 2 scores. I saw you guys were up 24-3. I said Vikings are going to handle that. Did you end up checking this one out?
No, I texted you yesterday. I said I kind of stopped paying attention when I saw it was 24-9. But going back to it, it's just I will say I like that Keaton Mitchell at running back. I really like him. I think he's doing some good things, positive things. But I mean, I don't know what to make of this, bro. It's just it's not even anything the Browns really did. It's just the Ravens gave this one away.
We sold it.
Like, I am still. This means this win does nothing for me with the Browns. this is just kind of like one of those games where Baltimore now has to kind of go back, self-reflect, and look in the mirror and be like, how are we gonna respond the rest of the season?
We sold it. To your Keaton Mitchell point, I think he had like I mentioned, that 39-yard touchdown. He had a big catch, I think, for 30+ yards. He dropped probably another 40-yard touchdown where Lamar dropped it right into his hands. But he did not get utilized in the second half. And Harbaugh was asked about it. He said he wasn't on a snap count restriction or anything like that. And he's our most dynamic player outside of Zay Flowers and Lamar. So him not being able to be utilizing this offense after we've seen how dynamic he can be is a concern of mine, and hopefully that changes going forward, because especially with no J.K. Dobbins, what are we doing? We can't run Justice
Yeah.
Hill out there and Gus Edwards for 60 minutes every week. We got to shake things up a little bit. So that was a surprise. He didn't really get any touches in the second half.
Yeah, like I said, it's just this is more. I'm not, but it makes this division even more interesting when you look at the standings, because I think there's three teams now that are three losses: Steelers, Ravens, and Browns. You
If not,
know, and
yep.
so this is a very interesting division, but I still think it's the Ravens to win or to lose, depending on how they want to come out and play week to week. Um, but like I said, this win for the Browns does nothing for me in my regards of how I look at them. I still think they're a very average to below average team in the NFL. They've just gotten lucky in some games, in my opinion, and I still think Deshaun is highly overrated. Um, so like I said, the Ravens gave this one away. It was not about them not, because majority of the game they dominated this game, just like they
We did.
did the last time they played them. So that's the most frustrating part about it as a fan, is when you see teams that are very good do shit like this, especially mid to late season, because there's no reason for it to just fumble the bag.
There's not. And you mentioned Cleveland's record. They're 6-3. They beat us once. We split with them, actually. Pittsburgh, they're also 6-3. They'll play each other next week. If we end up losing to Cincinnati on Thursday night, one of those teams will be number one in the division. So we'll go
Right.
from a
And that
potential
was
best team in the league
and
to
that's
second in our
back
division
to
in 2 weeks.
and that brings me back to your point last week when we were doing picks. You all knew you had to win this game going into Cincinnati on a short week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That
And
is
we
the
came out
big
like it.
That's the biggest letdown of it all, because to go into Cincinnati on a very short week on Thursday night, this is playoff implications all written all over it. This is a huge game now. There's going to be lots of people tuned into it. And yeah, if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm on the edge of my seat the whole night.
Oh, we'll be on the edge of our seat, but I think out of the 3 games that we lost, this was the one I felt the least worse about, just
Right.
because I felt like Cleveland is a formidable team. Um, from what
Well,
Pittsburgh was at the time we lost to them, I thought we had no business losing to them. They're somehow now 6-3, and Indianapolis will beat them 16 out of 17 times. So that was just kind of fluky in my opinion. But I'm not.
but
Look,
like
we're going to talk about
but like
Baltimore came into this game. Are they the Super Bowl favorites? Are they the best team in the league? Is Lamar
this
MVP? Go ahead.
this is what really concerns me about these types of losses, though, especially for a team like the Ravens, is like listening to Eric Weddle talk today on a podcast. This type of loss, and the loss to the Colts, this sets you up for, instead of being like beating out the Chiefs for the number 1 seed and getting home field
Yeah,
advantage the whole way, you end up being like the 3 seed now, and that's the reason why you don't make the Super Bowl, is because you put yourself in that type of situation to not have the best road to the Super Bowl.
I agree. And I'm not really going to put this loss on the offense. I know we had a big lead, really, besides Lamar's pick six. The offense did its thing. They put up, what, we have 31, so 24 points. Our defense, 26 points realistically. Deshaun went 14 of 14 in the second half. You want to talk about an overrated quarterback? There's not a lot of guys that are doing that. But Lamar now on the season, you probably saw a clip of it earlier, has 10 touchdown passes, equaling Mac Jones and also Derek Carr. 16 total touchdowns to 11 total turnovers. He has 10 fumbles, 6 of those being lost. So my questions with this team are kind of like your questions with your Vikings early on in the season, because we have the best rush offense, a top 3 defense. Lamar leads the league in completion percentage, but if we're not going to take care of the ball, we're not going to win these games against these better teams. So that was pretty much my takeaway from this game. I'm looking a little side eye at the defense because in no world should we give 26 points to the Cleveland Browns with Amari Cooper and
No.
nobody else on that offense to speak of. So I'm not really blaming the Ravens offense on this one, but I would have liked to see a little bit more alertness, trying to put our foot on the throat of the Cleveland Browns, especially being a division game in our history and not being able to close these games out.
Yeah, I agree.
Houston at Cincinnati.
Woo!
This was a really good game, and I think a star was born. Cincinnati struck first. They were up 7-0. Joe Burrow threw an absolute dime to his tight end. But 20 unanswered for the Texans, and they didn't look back. Joe Burrow threw back-to-back interceptions in the fourth. And as good as he's been, CJ did return the favor. He did throw a pick back to the Bengals, gave them a little bit of life, got them back into the game. They were able to tie the game at 27. But for the second week in a row, CJ Stroud wasn't left with a lot of time. He's proven he may not need a lot of time. He goes down the field with one timeout. This week relies on a backup kicker to be clutch for him. Leads a game-winning drive, 30-27. Houston, 5-4. The loss to Carolina was clearly a fluke. This team is for real, and I don't know. They are scary. They could steal this from Jacksonville, man. They really could.
They could. I think this division is very interesting now as well. I've been a big fan of D'Amico and CJ all season long, and that defense and just what they're being able to do. They're doing a lot of things with less. Doing a lot of things with less than what most teams have. And that's a huge credit to the coach and to the quarterback. Now, I don't know if I want to go as far as saying, I'm going to put CJ in the MVP conversation. Now, if they win the division and, they have a very good winning record and at the end of the season and they win a playoff game, maybe. But I'm still a little, like, he's still a rookie, bro. Like, this is 1 year. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency, like see how he comes out next year, how he balls. But I'm not going to say he's going to take a, 2 steps back or anything like that. There's been times, it's even like what we're seeing with Josh Dobbs right now. It's like, how much can you really read into it? I mean, obviously the numbers CJ is putting up is a lot better, and he's consistently been doing it. But it's just I'm still hesitant.
Joe Burrow was doing at LSU that 1 year.
I'm just very hesitant because there's a lot of quarterbacks in this league that can look the part and look good, but then it's just like it's like a flash in the pan real quick, and I guess how do I want to say this? It's like I'm kind of scarred by the quarterback play overall. So while I want to credit CJ for what he's doing and how he's playing and beating a team like the Bengals and a quarterback like Joe Burrow, that's awesome and that's terrific. And I think this team is up and coming and for real, like you said. But I'm just scared to be like, because I mean, after this game, you got so many people saying MVP, he needs to be in front runner for MVP, and it's like I can't go as far as to say that just yet.
That's what I was going to get at earlier. I kind of hate the way we talk about this because Lamar was clearly the MVP. If not, he was top 3 heading into this week. Ravens were considered the best team in the league by a lot of people. We're going into the game as healthy as we've ever been, and I knew that was a bad sign. I mean, but now we're talking about CJ Stroud MVP, Lamar's. We're talking about Lamar's no better than Mac Jones, and it just changes so fast, man, and I just try not to react to it all. But it is something to monitor. CJ Stroud is killing. It would be a perfect storm because Joe Burrow started the season unhealthy. Right. Jalen Hurts is dealing with a knee injury, so he hasn't looked like he has the past year. Patrick Mahomes is having a little bit of a down year. Josh Allen, they might lose to Denver, so I mean it's a perfect storm for him to be in that conversation. But I think it's a far-fetched possibility.
I mean, it's so funny because majority of about 90 to 95% of the fans in the league are very recency biased. Like it's a week to week overreaction, whether it's good or bad. So, and you see it a lot. You see it a lot in the media these days now because everything's on social media right after the show and everything, and these clips of what they're talking. And like Shannon Sharp saying, and Dan Orlovsky talking about ESPN today. Like I saw on Instagram, like they're also saying CJ needs to be front runner for MVP, and it's like we're already putting him above Mahomes or Burrow or Lamar, and like all like, are we really
Jalen
doing
Hurts.
this? Like, come on, bro. Like it should never be that. We should never be that, overreactive to things like this. It was a great, awesome game, and his numbers prove it. Like, awesome. But it's just like I texted you middle of the Vikings game. Is Josh Dobbs the Vikings' future? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's. But that was, it was funny. I sent that because I'm all over social media and Vikings communities. That's what it is. Like,
Yeah, you
he
guys are
get rid of
terrible.
Kirk. This proves we don't need Kirk. Like, are we really saying Dobbs is better than Kirk Cousins? He brings some
Yeah,
things differently to the table that Kirk doesn't offer, for sure. But is he? But he's he better than Kirk? Can he? Can he dime people and throw and dot people up just as well as Kirk was? Kirk was playing better than majority of the quarterbacks in the league until he went down. So it's like, let's just slow our roll, bro, and let things play out for what it's gonna be.
I agree, man. And I think as humans, sometimes we struggle to notice our own flaws. And that's why when you talk about Dallas fans or Packers fans, I just chuckle because that's what the Vikings fans are to me. I've been so positive. I've been so optimistic. And I've been so nice about my Vikings fans and my Steelers fans this week. And, these guys just come out of the woodworks when Baltimore loses and their team wins. And they're asking, are you okay? Do we need to send welfare checks? I want to check on you. My fantasy team won. I wasn't going to play Baltimore's defense. I'm sure glad I did. All this type of crap. And it's, just know I am the petty one. I keep it light on the pod, but if that's how we want to be, I can.
No, Rob. You know me. Hey, I when I texted you that about the welfare check thing, I just thought it was funny because you brought it up to me the one time when we almost gave a game away or whatever. And it's like, I haven't been used to seeing Baltimore have a game like that where they're up 24-9 and they let, like, a Harbaugh led team usually doesn't do that.
We have
So
been though
it
over
was
the
just,
past 2 seasons. Right now, it's just a lot of perception. Just like we think the Pittsburgh defense is dominant because they have been over the past 20 years, but they're solid. They're bend don't break. They're more like what Minnesota was last year. We think Baltimore doesn't lose at home or blow these big leads. That's what we've been doing for the past 2 years. So that's not who we are typically. And you would think with how good our defense is and the options we have on offense, that isn't who we are now, but it's who we are.
oh, I mean, look, for me, it boils down to just the past couple of years, though. It's Baltimore's been probably the most injury riddled team in all across football. So, I
Probably
mean,
so.
we got to keep it real and say, tell it like it is, because that's what it has been. I mean, how many games last year was it where Huntley came in and had to play?
Enough where you got in the fucking Pro Bowl.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's not due to him and his numbers or what he's actually doing out there. I mean,
I think bro had like 5 touchdown passes. Like it was nasty.
so we got, yeah, you gotta look at it for what it is. And um the thing is, though, is like, I think people probably talk a little bit of shit and come out of the woodworks because Baltimore overall is one of the most consistently good, winning record teams across the board year to year. Team and other guys, the other fans and shit, not used to it, not used to their team being that.
I don't know. I got to do some research now. But let's be like the modern media and overreact to the San Francisco ass whooping that they handed out to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was a close game early, but around 10-3, I could tell Jacksonville was outmatched. 34-3 was the final score. I mean, San Francisco, the defensive front was amazing. Etienne couldn't get going. Lawrence couldn't stay clean. Warner's still the best linebacker in the league. Young and Bosa look like they're back at OSU. They look kind of scary again. What'd you think?
I agree, but I think it boils down to, I mean, this team just looks different and has a different swagger to them when like they have a healthy Debo or a Trent Williams and like all those key guys back, because those guys are the 49ers. When they're
Mm-hmm.
missing, you don't have the same swagger, the same team. And this is the type, I mean, when you're fully healthy, you get a different Brock Purdy. The guy who kind of is like in the shadows and if he doesn't make mistakes, he goes unnoticed. So, and that's
Yep.
what you want.
It's the difference
Now,
between this version of Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo when those guys are out. It's night and day with Brock
right.
Purdy.
And now on the other side of things, this is a major step backward for Jacksonville. If you're a for real team, you don't take this kind of ass whooping.
I agree. And I think we've seen some matchups like this so far this season where the more physical teams have come in and just laid the smackdown on the more finesse kind of teams. That might be kind of a trend headed later into the season because that weather's going to play a big factor in a lot of these games. So, Jacksonville, you're going to have to look
Yeah.
yourself in the mirror and figure out what kind of team you want to be going forward.
And I think this is right. And I just don't think the Jaguars are there yet they're not ready to handle these type of teams yet. And it showed. So, but this game for me, for the 49ers, I've never fully jumped off the Niners bandwagon. I think they've had a few rough weeks, and that's expected for a lot of teams, throughout the course of a long NFL season. There's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way. Even if you're a one-loss team, it's not going to look pretty all the time. The 49ers have battled some injuries early on in the season. They've lost a couple games they shouldn't have had no business losing, but it is what it is. And the thing is, the 49ers are such a, veteran squad and they have playoff experience. So once they get there, it's a whole new season and they turn into a different beast.
I agree. The Miami Heat, I called it. I'm not worried about them. They can go 9-8, be the 7th seed, and everybody in the NFC should be terrified. Coming into the week, we thought those would be some of the better games, and for the most part, they lived up to that hype. But life is about balance. We did have to endure some poo-poo games before we got to those. The first of which being early Sunday morning, the Indianapolis Colts was on the road in New England, 10-6 across the border. Sad. Mac Jones was benched right before the final drive for the Patriots when they had a chance to go win this game. Zappy came in, didn't really do much to help the Patriots or his case to be the starter for next week, but we're going to see what Bill Belichick and that front office decides to do going forward. I think the Patriots are now 2-8, Bill's worst start since 2000. So how do we feel about this Colts win, who just keep being sneaky and staying in that playoff race?
Yeah, it's not pretty. It's fucking ugly, but I'll take 5-5 over 2-8 any day. So like I said, a win is a win in this league. You take them how you get them. But with the Patriots, it's it's fully time to move off of Bill Belichick. This whole organization needs a complete reset, just a new era. Because the more the more he keeps going, he's digging himself further into the hole of having his legacy completely tarnished as a coach. And he's continuously proving week to week the rate that it's going, that it was never the Patriot way, it was the Tom Brady way. So that's where I'm at with this. I'm not saying Bill's a bad coach or whatever, but I just don't think Bill has the career he's had without Tom Brady. It is what it is. And he's proving to be an awful general manager / head coach. A combined role. He should never do that. I mean, especially at this point in his career, he needs to give up the GM duties if he wants to keep coaching.
It'll be tough to see Bill somewhere else. If he's going to go somewhere else, though, he's going to need a quarterback. My team of choice, LA Chargers. I'll just throw that out there. Thursday Night Football, we had Carolina on the road at Chicago. Justin Fields was mocking my Roll Tide Bryce Young. And how dare he, because he is fucking thumb up the ass shit right now. But Chicago gets the win. Credit to them. Carolina, Jesus Lord. They're bad, man. They're really bad. They had signs about the first month of the season where they were getting better, and they plateaued, and now they're regressing. I don't know what to say about this team, but Chicago got their win, and they're even closer with Carolina's draft pick to having the number 1 draft pick in next year's draft. So a double win for Chicago. What'd you think about it?
I watched a little bit of it, but it was just, I don't know what to say. I mean, and then you get Stephen A coming on and saying like Justin Fields needs to hope and pray that they trade him to a more respectable franchise because blah blah blah. And look,
Fields needs to hope and pray a team will pick him up next season.
This is my whole problem with Stephen A. And like I'm off topic a little bit now, but Stephen A. needs to just stick to basketball and
get him.
Like football, he has no business talking about. He knows nothing. Like I'm so sick of hearing of his football takes. It's just bad. It's bad. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think just what's going on in Carolina right now is just complete embarrassment. I mean, Adam Thielen came out already and said the offense is completely embarrassing. And it is. I mean, I just feel bad for a rookie like Bryce Young, who he's gotten no shot of success with the team he's got around him. It's just that bad. So, and I don't take anything away with this win for the Bears over the Panthers. It was, we picked them to win. They should have won regardless because of how bad the Panthers are. But the Panthers are just such an inept team right now. Like they can't do anything right.
I agree. Let's move on to your rival against my rival. So no love lost for us, but a love did lose in this game. Jordan actually did have a decent game for the Green Bay Packers at quarterback. Pittsburgh was able to put out an actual offensive performance on the field. I don't know, though. I think the better team ended up winning this game. Mike Tomlin's a better coach. The defense is a little bit better than Pittsburgh. Love, Pickett, probably about even. Weapons are probably about even, but I thought the better overall team did win this game. So kind of what we expected.
Yeah,
close game. Nothing really to talk about here in my estimation.
No, there's nothing to take away from this game. Obviously, the better team won. I still think Jordan Love's not the guy. I think I'll take fucking Dobbs over Jordan Love, bro.
Yeah, me too.
So that's where I'm at with it. But yeah, I mean, realistically, the Packers will be lucky to win 2 more games.
Yeah, Jordan Love is kind of on that Tyler Huntley level right now. Hopefully he gets a little better by the end of the season. This was a good game for him, though, especially against Tomlin in that defense. So hopefully he can build off this going forward. Tennessee at Tampa Bay, another young quarterback who actually played well against his Pittsburgh defense. Maybe it was the game before. Either way, Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans weren't able to muster up anything on offense against Tampa Bay and this Buccaneers defense, who have been pretty solid all season. Baker Mayfield, if he's able to put up 20 points a game, although he did struggle quite a bit early on in this game with an interception and no pass yards to speak of pretty much for the whole first half. Tampa Bay can be, a contender as far as the playoff team goes, certainly as far as the division goes with all the football teams out there. But right now, Tampa is the best team, or the team that I feel best about right now in the NFC South. How'd you feel about this game?
I expected the Bucs to win. I mean, I just, even though I thought Will Levis played probably as good as he could have the week before against the Mike Tomlin defense, he did some good things, but he's just, Will Levis is going to have a lot of bump in the roads because he's not that type of guy right now, and I don't know if he will be, but he'll be serviceable going forward. But the Titans are just they just got that old washed up feeling across the board for their roster, and I just don't have any good feelings about that team. So, and I think the Bucks, especially I picked the Bucks this week just because their defense has been pretty sneaky good all year long, and they've been in most games. So I figured they could handle that Will Levis led offense pretty well, which they did. But yeah, like to your point, I think the Bucks. I mean, I would hope the Bucks win that division because if it's between the Falcons and the Saints, that's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, while the game was happening, I really thought about it, and I should have took the Bucks because although Tennessee does have a pretty decent defense, the Bucks aren't one-dimensional like Pittsburgh was. So the fact that Tennessee was in that game a little bit against Pittsburgh, they aren't able to run the ball, even though they did have a couple rushing touchdowns this past week. Tampa Bay has a decent running back in Rashad White, and then we also know what Godwin and Mike Evans possess out there on the perimeter. K. Dotton has come alive these past few weeks at tight end for that team. So Baker, who knows now though? The expectations are back on. Tampa Bay could probably be a contender in that division. We know how he fares under those conditions, so we'll just wait and see with that guy. Detroit at LA, maybe the best game of the day. On Detroit's side, the offense was clicking. Almost had 200 rush yards in the first half. Goff was efficient. He took care of the ball. He made more of his impact later in the game, though, if you ask me. The defense for the Lions worries me because although Chargers had plenty of chances to win the game, and I did like what I seen from their offense, 38 points is quite a lot. But them giving up 41 points and allowing 4 or 5 on fourth down conversions will not cut it. So this was a battle of offense, almost like the Chiefs-Rams game a couple years back, 41-38. Detroit, Chargers, the difference is Detroit's successful on the gambles with coaching, I think. Dan Campbell is probably a little bit better than Staley, but the decision-making in this game will drive you up a wall. It's fun to watch, but when it comes down to playoff time and seeding time, this may not be what you want to watch if you're a Lions fan. 4 or 5 on fourth down conversions. I think one of those was a 5-yard conversion. You guys attempted, which you got it, but a run up the middle. I mean, we can't be doing that against the 49ers and the Eagles. But Detroit got the win, 41-38. How'd you feel about this one?
It was definitely an entertaining game. I thought it was fun to watch, but yeah, I mean, especially when you've seen, I think it was late in the game when the Chargers got down in the red zone. They eventually ended up scoring a touchdown, but thanks to a PI in the end zone, which gave them a fresh set of downs at the 1. But
Oh,
before
eight
that,
plays. He tried, yeah, 8 plays on
it was
first and
like
goal.
they did 2 or 3 QB sneaks with Herbert that just got stuffed. Then they did another fucking run play with the running back, and I was just like, what are we doing? There's no creativity down there. Like that's what's
It's
mind-boggling about coaching in the NFL. I don't get it, but yeah, the biggest thing for me is like, yeah, the Lions defense does worry me. Like I said, I mean, you can't tell these Detroit fans nothing right now. It's just they are hyped and they should be, but they've been so deprived of this type of success for so long that you can't tell them nothing. It's Detroit versus everyone. So, but with that being said, I don't believe in them. I don't think that they're there yet. I don't think that they can go on the road to Philly and win in the playoffs. I don't think they can go on not, I mean, if they keep two seed, they'd have to probably play the Niners or something at home. But I still think the Niners are more of a veteran savvy playoff experience team that will take care of business against the Lions. So and like I said, if we're gonna get this type of play out of the defense from the Lions, there's no shot in the playoffs.
no shot at all. They'll keep it entertaining, and it's going to be hard to keep them from scoring 30 points a game. But if you're going to give up 30 points a game too, I'm probably going to be trusting Philly or San Fran in those circumstances.
And back to the Dan Campbell gambling situation, he's known to fucking go for it a lot on fourth. And I think eventually that type of shit comes back to haunt you in key matchups, especially in the playoffs.
We'll see, man. It's been working out so far. I mean, sometimes teams just have those seasons. Last year you had one. Maybe this is Detroit's season. Who
Right,
knows?
right.
We'll see. Atlanta at Arizona. Your boy, he's back. I know you're smiling ear to ear when you're able to see this guy at 330 with those shoulder pads trot out on that field. The number one pick is back for the Cardinals, and he could have played better, but at the end of the day, you can't ask for a better result. He did get James Conner to return to the lineup, so he did have a little help in that backfield. Not a great game, but very solid, and you know, kind of what you expected. If Kyle was going to be out there, he had close to 300 total yards. You expect that to be a little bit better the healthier he gets. He did have a rushing touchdown. He did have an interception, but he's going to be out there and he's going to be competitive, like I said. He's not going to want to lose these games and lose his job to Caleb Williams or whoever the Arizona Cardinals are looking at in that top 5 draft pick. So I expect the Cardinals to be very competitive. I expected them to win this game. It did help that Heineke went out and Desmond Ridder was inserted back into the lineup. He is a bad quarterback, and I think for this offense to not be able to muster 100 pass yards between the two, complete embarrassment. I think for the second week in a row, complete embarrassment for the Atlanta Falcons. And like you said, Arthur Smith, the floor is yours.
It just, I mean, this dude is a bad coach, bro. Like he's
Brandon
the
Staley
thing is
bad.
he's been so questionable. He's been so questionable though since he's been in Atlanta. The fact that he's got certain playmakers that he refuses to use most of the time is mind-boggling. We're gonna run a fucking tight end reverse with Jonnu Smith at the 2-yard line.
It's as bad as the
coaching
Chargers.
malpractice, bro.
It is. It is.
You
can
know,
say what you
I
want
have
about
nothing else to
KOC
say.
down there, but when you watch teams like that, you have to feel great about your play calling.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's a blessing when you can complain about little minor bullshit with your team, and play calls, compared to what that type of shit is. At least KOC is competent enough to, realize like we're not going to run a tight end reverse down there. I mean, you see teams like the Chiefs once in a while run like a wildcat with Kelsey, or do a little no look shovel pass to the tight end up the middle for whatever 2-point conversion or something. But it's, I mean, when you do 2 straight running plays with the running back and then you go to another running play, but it's a reverse to the tight end. I mean, don't complain when you don't score. So, I feel bad for the fan base in Atlanta because it's very, I mean, they're 4-6, not an awful record, but they're losing games they should win. And, as the defense had a great start to the season, I thought, and
yeah, they had a very promising start to the
it's just
season on both
downhill, bro.
sides of the ball. Yeah, they're 4-6, very promising
It's
start to
like
the season, and 1-4 on the road now.
Yeah, and I think Atlanta and the Saints are kind of the same boat. They need a fresh start with coaching. Bring in new guys. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah, but I mean, hey, Kyler played probably as good as he could have with all the rust he still has to knock off.
I agree, man. Atlanta, it sucks when you watch teams like Washington or New Orleans be able to stay in these games against playoff caliber teams, and you are losing against a team like Arizona. That's not where you should be, but unfortunately, that is where you are right now. So, time to figure things out quick because the division is not lost at all. So, halfway through the season, you still have a chance. You can turn it around quick, but
yeah,
we're gonna have to see. Washington at Seattle. This was a battle of some really good quarterback play. I guess you could say. Sam Howell had a big screen pass to Brian Robinson Jr. Geno had a big screen pass to Kenneth Walker, both resulting in touchdowns. Outside of that, though, the guys were pretty good overall. 29-44, 312, 3 touchdowns for Howell. 31 out of 47, 369, 2 touchdowns for Geno. Similar to the Pittsburgh game, though, I think the better team did end up winning. Seattle probably slightly better than Washington, especially after the guys who let go at the trade deadline. Sam Howell had one of his good games. Usually when Washington plays like this, Sam Howell plays like this, they do win these games. Seattle they just edged them out in this one. What'd you think about this game here?
Yeah, I think the better team won. Seahawks do kind of worry me a bit, though. I mean, I don't know. You just, I
Yeah,
don't
they
think the
worry me too.
consistency is there with this team. But on the Commander side of things, they're kind of surprising in a sense that there's a lot of weeks that they don't show up when they should, but then they'll come out and they'll take Philly to the wire, or they'll take the Seahawks down to the wire, and it's
Mhm.
so this Commanders team has the ability to be good, but and I think Sam Howell has a. I'm not completely sold on him, but I think if I'm a betting man, I'm going to bet on him to have a pretty bright future in the NFL. I think he's got the makeup to be a good quarterback.
I think he falls in that Josh Dobbs category right now. He's better than a backup. Is he a for sure starter? I'm not sure, but the time that he's shown as a starter, he's earning my trust a little bit. So I would be comfortable going into 24, 25 with him as the starting quarterback, even though Jacoby Brissett is the backup over there.
Right.
New York Giants on the road at Dallas. If you're going to account for the sacks that the Giants suffered, Cooper Rush came in and had more passing yards in 9 attempts than DeVito had all game. That's pretty much my only note on this Cowboys-Giants game. 49-17. Giants, terrible. Cowboys do what they do. They dominate a mediocre team.
Yeah. I mean, Cowboys fans can relish in another week of beating a piss poor team, acting like they're on their way to a fucking Lombardi trophy when in all reality, the Cowboys are nowhere close to being a Super Bowl team. They just aren't. And no one should fear them. Um, I think they're competitive, obviously, and I think they'll make teams, fight for that win. But they don't have the makeup to be clutch. They shit the bed all the time still against good teams. I don't trust Dak. And CD Lamb coming out and saying he's the best wide receiver in the game. I've had enough of this Cowboys team.
The ultimate front runners, man. No question about it. We'll wrap this one up here. The New York Jets were on the road at the Las Vegas Raiders last night. Zach Wilson, unlike Sam Howell, unlike Josh Dobbs, terrible, will be a backup next year and probably for the rest of his career. The Raiders, Antonio Pierce, gets his second win in a row, 2-0 as head coach. Surprising me. I thought this Jets defense would be able to carry against this Raiders offense. But Zach Wilson, he's really just he's the problem. There's nothing else to say about it. The Jets are bad because of him.
Well, and I think ultimately, I think everyone knows it in that organization. And I think it's very hard for even as good as that defense is. I think it's hard for them week to week to get up and go and give their best effort because they know that it's just going to you know, be thrown out the window by his performance. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no confidence there amongst anyone. And when you run into a Raiders team that just fired McDaniels and now you got AP coaching, it's a whole different vibe. Yeah, I was worried about this one for the Jets. The Raiders, you always, when you have a coaching change and it's a positive one midseason, these teams are scary.
For some reason, at least early on, they are. Whether it's the adrenaline, whether it's the excitement of having some new voices in the locker room, or whatever the case may be. But you saw the Colts last year when they got Jeff Saturday in there, win that big game, but they look like shit afterwards. I think Antonio Pierce is actually worthy of a head coaching spot rather than Jeff Saturday like last year. But I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, more times than not, when it is a positive change, the team responds in a positive manner. So that's what we're seeing for the Raiders. And I think if Garoppolo's healthy, they actually handled the Jets last night instead of just winning by 4. But credit to the Raiders, man. Credit to Antonio. They're doing their thing, 2-0. I don't know if it's a little too late for a playoff run, but I do think they're still right in the thick of things in the AFC there.
Yeah, I mean, 5-5 it's pretty surprising for this Raiders team.
Bro, Coaching is so underrated. This looked like the worst team in the league 3 weeks
It.
ago.
You're
It's
right.
it can't be
Well, and
understated
it just goes to
because
show you, es- especially in the NFL when it's a fucking grown man business and you're not coaching, kids or students anymore. These are grown men. Like if they don't like you, you're gonna know it and you're gonna fucking feel it. So
no question. We good here? Right now it's nine
I'm
to
good to
eight.
go.
About to head into halftime. Denver is up on Buffalo. Shocking
Yeah,
right now, but
we we don't really get good primetime games anymore.
honestly, last time I peeped, Russell Wilson was 9 of 11, over 100 yards, had a touchdown, no interceptions, a couple rushes for, decent yardage. If he plays like that next week, we should have 3 good primetime games.
Oh
Baltimore,
yeah, for sure. I'm just
Cincy
saying
on
overall
Thursday.
majority the way they
Oh,
schedule
yeah.
these games, it's like
They're usually very
I don't know.
bad.
I feel like they gotta look into somehow being able to schedule these. I know you can't schedule week to week because that's way too hard and too short a notice for teams. But to be able to schedule games maybe like 3 weeks in advance for primetime games, maybe I don't know how you want to do that or something. But it's like figure it out where you can pick and choose what games will be good and the ones that aren't going to be good because
We have to
it's there
brainstorm
are a
that
lot of
idea.
majority of the time a lot of these a lot of times the NFL doesn't even flex out games anymore. It's rare when they do it. So it's just we're kind of stuck with what they give us when they schedule it in May.
And it kind of sucks that it's fucking. We're treating it like Pee Wee football, and everybody has to play, and everybody has to get a primetime game. There's no reason after what we saw last year
Yeah,
that
I hate
Denver
that
should be
shit.
playing Monday night and then Sunday night on back-to-back weeks. There's no reason for it.
Yeah, and let's stop the whole
I'm good on
slotting
the
just
Cowboys.
Dallas in primetime shit.
I'm good on the Cowboys. I don't even enjoy watching the Cowboys. I watch them more than the Ravens at this point. I'm good on that, bro. And I'm good on
Bro,
this
Josh Allen
episode
is
if you are
mid.
as well. Yeah, hey,
Josh Allen is mid, and we'll talk about it tomorrow.
that's a great way to end it, man. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll catch y'all then. Peace. Josh Allen's mid as hell. I hate this dude.